tear, it falls and hits the ground. A tree, it falls without a sound. A bird, it calls and sends you home. A man, he sits in the cold all alone.
Hi, Jenessa. Welcome to the Joy of Sunflowers. Thank you so much for joining me and everyone. Please tell us all a little bit about you.
Hi, Ella. Thank you so much for having me. I am a mama to two little kids. We live in Boise, Idaho, in the States. I have quite the story of loss, and I'm just so grateful that you have me on here today to share about it. So, my loss story starts in 2014. We had tried to have a baby for about a year. We found out we were pregnant. We were so excited, as everybody is, and everything was going great. We saw the heartbeat at 8 weeks. We were just so excited. And around 10 weeks, I started to hemorrhage, and we lost our sweet baby to a subchorionic hemorrhage at 10 weeks. And I just remember being so angry, and that loss just rocked me. I remember laying on an air mattress in my living room because I didn't want to lay down in my bed and wake up every morning not feeling sick anymore. I was so sick, and I would have given anything to have been sick again. So I slept on an air mattress in my living room for like a month. I was just so angry. A miscarriage happens to other people, and it doesn't happen to you, until it does. And it completely rocked me. So I had that miscarriage, and I went 4 months without a cycle. And in those 4 months, we kind of realized that I had polycystic ovarian syndrome. And I ended up talking to my doctor about it, and he ended up prescribing Clomid. So we took Clomid, and we got pregnant that first try. We were really lucky. And I got pregnant with my little girl, had no complications. I went to 42 weeks overdue with her, and that pregnancy was like picture perfect. I was sick, but like no complications whatsoever. And so we kind of just figured that like the first one was just kind of a fluke. And we started trying when she was about a year, and it took us about 7 months to get pregnant. So we did Clomid again, and we got pregnant again. And about 7 weeks, I started bleeding a little bit. So we just went in to get it checked, and it was a blighted ovum where the sap grows, but the baby does not. And I don't know why, but I don't really remember much about that pregnancy, how it passed, anything that happened. It was just kind of it felt to me like it was like a loss of a pregnancy, not necessarily a loss of a baby, because like a baby hadn't grown yet, if that makes sense. So after that loss, we got pregnant really quickly after. I think it was 1 or 2 months after that. And I got pregnant, and I was sick, and saw baby's heartbeat at 8 weeks and 12 weeks and 16 weeks. And we were on vacation with my family in California. And I woke up in a lot of pain that morning, September 18th of 2017. I woke up in a lot of pain. I thought I had a kidney stone. I went to the bathroom, and I had the thought, did my water just break? And I was like, I'm 20 weeks. My water did not just break. Like that did not just happen. So I went about my day. We went to the beach, and I realized that I was bleeding quite a bit. My doctor was about an hour and a half away. So we took off on the hour-and-a-half drive to the hospital. And halfway through our drive to the hospital, I realized that my pain was coming every three or every 3 minutes and lasting for about 60 seconds. And I was like, that's labor. Like this isn't a good sign. So we got to the hospital and pretty quickly learned that our baby had passed within 1 or 2 weeks of that day. And so I delivered our little baby boy Jet in the hospital, and we held him for a while, and uh, it's heartbreaking. It just I miss him so much. I think about him every single day. Um, and it's heartbreaking. We found a little plot We buried him about a week and a half later, and that little space has become so, so special for our family. After that, we did Clomid again about 2 months later, and I got pregnant with my little boy that I have right now. His name is Brixton, and that pregnancy was hard. It was a very hard pregnancy. I've been sad, like before that, I had been sad, but I didn't really understand depression until I was pregnant with him. I was low, just couldn't see the light. It was dark, and I was fearful I was going to lose him. No, at no point did I feel safe. Like usually they say, like when you hit 12 weeks, you're safe, but I didn't feel that. Even up to 20 weeks, I wasn't safe. And so there was never a moment of like, I can breathe, this pregnancy is going to be fine. I ended up doing like progesterone shots from like 16 weeks on, and his pregnancy was, I mean, fairly easy, just filled with a lot of darkness and depression, which was really hard. Um, but I ended up delivering him at 37 weeks due to like slightly elevated blood pressure and the doctor just not wanting to like push our chances. So after him, I had the two kids, and I just was like, I'm just going to enjoy my two kids for a while. So we enjoyed the two of them for about 2.5 years. And it was the best 2.5 years, like not having to try, not having to like worry about anything, and just like loving on my babies. But when he was about 2.5, we started to try again. And it took us 6 months on Clomid, 6 rounds of Clomid. And I had gotten to like the end of my rope, like I can't do Clomid anymore. We had started talking about whether or not this was like the end, if we were just going to just have the two kids. So on that last round of Clomid, the day I was supposed to start it, my doctor called and upped my dosage. And so I took it, and we found out we were pregnant. And that pregnancy was also really hard. Even though I'd already had successful pregnancy after a loss, that pregnancy was still so hard and still so depressing. I laid in bed all the time. I was sick. I just didn't see any motivation to do anything. There was no light. It's scary. My husband's job changed in that pregnancy, and we moved to one of the seven wonders of the world. We moved to the Grand Canyon in Arizona. We were right outside the national park, and it was very remote. We were an hour and a half from the grocery store. It was a move I did not want to make. We had just moved away from family. So we got there, we moved in, and my 16-week appointment was supposed to be a week later. But because we had just moved, my insurance hadn't switched over yet. So we drove back to Utah where we had been living, and I went to my doctor that I had been seeing. So we had just moved. My little girl was missing her friends. So I decided, like, how fun would it be to take my little girl to my 16-week checkup and let her see the baby on the ultrasound, and then let her go play with her friends, like do a play date after my checkup. So I lay down on the bed, and he puts the ultrasound wand on my belly, and I thought for sure maybe my pants were just not low enough. Like he couldn't get a good picture. So I pulled my pants lower, and he was like, hold on for a second. And so I just laid there, and he was like, hold on for a second. And baby wasn't moving on the ultrasound. And that was my first experience with there's no heartbeat. All my other losses, like I lost my baby, or I lost Jet, like I delivered him before I knew he'd passed. And the blighted ovum, there was never a heartbeat. And with the subchorionic hemorrhage, like baby never lost their heartbeat, like up until as far as I had seen. And so this was the first, I'm so sorry, there's no heartbeat. And my little girl was right there, so excited to see baby sister. And it's heartbreaking. It was the moment that I realized that our loss with Jet probably wasn't a fluke, but there were no answers. We had both babies like genetically tested, and the placenta tested, and autopsies done, and both babies came back completely genetically normal, physically normal. Everything was normal. Just their hearts stopped beating. So I ended up having a D&C, or a D&E. When you're further along, it's a D&E. And I wanted to get pregnant again so quickly after. all of those pregnancies, I just wanted to be pregnant by the next due date. I just needed to be pregnant by the due date. And it became kind of like this frantic thing. And I was told that I'd taken too many rounds of letrozole and they weren't going to, or sorry, Clomid, and they weren't going to let me take Clomid anymore. And so I like dove deep into healing my body. I'm like, I want a baby and I can't take the medicine that will help me have a baby. So I started getting rid of all the toxins in our home and switching out all of my products. And I thought maybe I had celiac disease. So I cut out gluten and I did all these things. And finally, I found a doctor who was like, "Well, let's try letrozole. It basically does the same thing as Clomid with like less side effects." So I did a few rounds with that and finally found the dosage that worked and found out that I was pregnant end of 2021, like December of 2021. That pregnancy was hard. I lived an hour and a half away from the doctors, and those doctors weren't even like maternal fetal medicine. They didn't have all the know-how. So they were sending me even 3 more hours away. It was like a really long drive. It was very stressful. I was taking baby aspirin and methylated folate. Like we were trying different things, hoping that that would help this baby stick. And I was feeling so sick, like I had felt all the other pregnancies. Like I was very hopeful about this one. And in early March of 2022, I went in for my 15-week appointment. And again, there was no heartbeat and no more answers. Again, another perfect, genetically normal, sweet little boy. And no answers. But after that one, we were able to meet. That was finally three. Let's see. No, it wasn't 3 losses in a row. They weren't willing to do testing until I had 3 losses in a row. But with that one being two second trimester losses in a row, they were willing to start doing testing for me. All my testing came back normal. Still no answers. But I finally was able to meet with some fertility specialists that were willing to like try different things. And so we tried blood thinners and we tried a steroid and we tried all these different things. And all of these different things, I was so excited. Like one of them, one of these like 5 or 6 different treatments, like has to keep our baby here, right? One of them. And so we went into this pregnancy and I did shots twice a day in my belly and I did all the suppositories and I took all the medicines. I had to like buy like this huge extensive like storage system to like separate all my medicines so that I could take them at the right times of the day. And I was perfect. I didn't miss a shot. I didn't miss a medicine. Like I was perfect on time. Like my full-time job was keeping that baby's little heart beating. In that time in between those 2 pregnancies, we had basically told my husband's employer that we weren't getting the care we needed when we lived at the Grand Canyon. And so they worked with us to find a new place to get better care. We moved to Boise in the end of August of last year, 2022. And so I was so excited. We had good doctors, and I was being seen every single week by like specialists. And I was on all of these shots and all of this medication. And I woke up the morning of my 16-week checkup, and I think I just knew. My mind wasn't very nice to me. I was like picturing in my head how I was going to call my husband, how I was going to call my mom, how I was going to tell them that like this baby had passed too, like just kind of morbid. But I dropped my little boy off at the babysitter and I drove to the doctor's office. And sure enough, there was no heartbeat. And I'm so sorry. There's no heartbeat at my 16-week appointment. We did some more testing and everything came back normal. And that was August of 2022. And here we are in 2023 and still have no more answers. But that's my story. I miss all 6 of them so much and think about them daily. And there's a purpose for this, but I'm not totally sure what it is yet.
It's hard when you lose a baby, especially when like we know how important they are and how special they are, and it just makes it a bit harder.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter how far along you are. A miscarriage is a loss and it hurts. I've lost 7 weeks, I've lost 10 weeks, I've lost 20 weeks, 16, 15, 16. Like they all hurt and they all hurt in their own ways. But especially when you find out like what gender they are, and you start buying their clothes and you start getting excited and like talking about names, like they are a special, special spot in your heart. And it is so, so hard to lose them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was speaking to someone the other day and she said, you're a mother as soon as you're pregnant. And yeah,
Your heart changes the second those two pink lines show up.
and even if the baby isn't here, that baby is still yours and you're still
Yeah.
mum to that
Hmm.
baby.
Yeah. And you give everything to help them grow and eat healthy and get the sleep you need and take the medications you're supposed to. You do everything to care for them, even
Yeah.
though they're not physically in your arms. And it's hard. It's hard to lose that.
Yeah. I mean, I know what it feels like to kind of go through a pregnancy with no hope. Like my second
Hmm.
loss, I was like, I'm gonna lose this one. And obviously I did. But it was very, very early. Both losses were very, very early. The first one I was very sick, very, very sick. And wasn't on my radar. I have 3 kids here on Earth, and I just didn't think that I could
Yeah, you think when
lose.
you're sick and like the symptoms are there, like obviously everything's doing what it's supposed to, you know?
Yeah, I felt everything I'd felt before. But then on my birthday I started bleeding.
Oh,
A
I'm so
little
sorry.
bit. And then I was like,
Hmm.
this is it. Like I've lost the baby. And I cried so
Hmm.
much. And my husband and my mom were like, no, no, you like women bleed all the time in their pregnancies, and you can have a period like the whole time. And I'm like, yeah, but I've had three
Hmm.
kids and I've never ever bled ever. And
Yeah.
I'm like, so I don't know.
And I
But then
think sometimes you have this like innate knowing too. Like, I think you're kind of prepared in a way. Like, I woke up that morning knowing that my baby was gone, just not fully knowing it, you know? Like, hadn't been confirmed, but I knew.
yeah.
And sometimes I think you just know. And it's the worst kind of knowing.
Yeah, I know a lot of women have said to me that, I didn't know. I went in and got a scan, thinking it was all going to be fine. And then
Hmm.
there's no heartbeat. And they said, I was sitting there like, what are you talking about? Confused and just, you know, and
And sometimes those are harder. Like the one
yeah,
where I went in and my little girl was with me. I had no idea that it wasn't going to be this perfect, sweet, growing baby in there, you know? I had no idea. I was completely caught off guard.
yeah,
I
because
don't know what's easier to go in like having like this deep knowing or to be caught off guard.
sometimes you just don't know at all and you have no sense or feeling of it. And I've heard, sometimes it's been gone for a while. The baby's been gone for a
Hmm.
while and you didn't know. And I think that hurts because you're like, well, how did I not know? My first loss, I had a blighted ovum, and
Hmm.
that hit me so hard. I I felt like there was a baby in there. I had all the symptoms. I didn't go in for a checkup until about 7 weeks because I didn't want any interruptions. Basically, I didn't want to go to the hospital and go to the doctors and stuff. I wanted to just be all natural and like not go to the doctor unless I'm worried. And then I started bleeding on my birthday, and I was like, well, I'm going to leave a little bit longer because it might be fine. I
Yeah.
got convinced. I got convinced. I cried and I was like, this is it. And then they convinced me, my husband and my mom, they were just trying to be nice and they convinced me. And I was like, yeah, okay, it's going to be fine. And then a few days later, I went and got a checkup and they said, what are your dates? And I sort of said what I felt were my dates, what I thought were my dates. And they were like, well, you're measuring like a week behind, and I can't see a baby in here yet. Like there's just the sac. And they said, but the baby could still be in there. It's just we can't see it because the baby can be so
Still so tiny. Yeah.
And I was like, okay, all right. I was so unsatisfied and left
You go in expecting to see like the sweetest
Yeah.
baby and the sweetest heartbeat, and then you're like, now what?
Yeah, what is this thing? And then they're like, oh,
Mhm.
just come in next week and we'll see if it's grown. And then you're like, well,
And a week is the longest time to have to. I'm like, can I come in an hour?
they're
It's
like,
the
no, we need to
worst.
see if there's growth.
And I'm like, but my heart cannot handle it. My anxiety cannot handle it. You've got to tell me right now.
It's so bad. And then I had to wait like 2 months to like get rid of everything. It took
It's not a fast process.
no, no. And your
And
body's
it's
just
not what they tell you, and it's not a heavy period. It's
no,
not.
I'm pretty sure a heavy period doesn't give you like a sac.
Mm-hmm. It doesn't. It doesn't have tissue. That's kind of like,
That was
no, it's
disturbing,
not a heavy.
I've got to say. I
Yeah.
have a picture of it on my phone to scare anyone who looks at my images.
Yeah.
Well, I felt like weird because like I've seen some people have a baby at the like
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's still like they've lost the baby, but they can hold the baby and there's a baby. But for me it was just a sack. So I was like, well, I want a picture.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's
But
just like a big ball of whatever it was. But
it's evidence of what you went through. It's evidence that there was a baby in there that you loved and you cared for and you were so excited about.
yeah,
An
yeah,
image you should be proud of.
it was just so surreal. And yeah, and my husband wasn't in the room. I like at first I started going into labor and I was like, this is labor. Okay. You just know when you start the
Mm-hmm.
labor process, like after you've had you know living children with labors,
Yeah.
like instant just yep, this is labor.
This is happening. Mm-hmm.
This is a load of crap. This
Yeah.
is not on. What is this?
No. Yeah, my first one, I had never had a baby before. My first pregnancy was a miscarriage, and they were like, it's just like a heavy period. No, no, it's not. Now that I've had children, I'm like, it is full on labor.
Mm.
And like, I should have known with my 20-week loss that it was labor, but I just was like, there's no way I'm 20 weeks. Like, I've made it past 12. It's not a miscarriage. Like, I've heard of people having miscarriages, but like stillbirths, like losing a baby after 12 weeks, I'd never heard of that. I didn't know anybody that had ever happened to. So like when I was in pain, like that was my last thought. It wasn't that it was labor until like 45 minutes before I delivered our like little boy that I realized that I had been in labor. I think I delivered him around 2:30 and I'd probably been in labor since 7 a.m. And I had no idea until 45 minutes before, which I think is a blessing that I didn't know.
Yeah.
But it's hard.
Yeah. Yeah. It took 45 minutes for me. Like I was in pain and yeah, it was just kind of progressive and then yeah, it came out. But yeah, about 45 minutes.
Yeah, it's not quick and it's not pain free and it's emotionally painful, it's physically painful. It's nothing I would wish on my worst enemy.
No.
No.
No, and I know a lot of women, I don't know if you find it hard to see others like pregnant and like with their announcements. I know a lot of women can get really angry and get really upset about it. But I'd never wish the losses on them. So whenever I see someone pregnant, I'm just like, I'm so glad you're pregnant. I'm so glad you have a
But it
baby.
still hurts for you. Yeah.
Yeah, because you're
Yeah.
like, I want one. Can I have your I'm not gonna
I know.
Can I have yours?
I know.
But
Or like share the love. You have so many. Can I just have one? Like, can I just have one of them? You know, but it's hard. It's something I've had to learn that they're on their own journey and I'm on my own journey, and their happy pregnancy doesn't take away from me. It doesn't need to hurt. It doesn't have to hurt me. It doesn't have to make me angry. I can be happy for them. Um,
yeah.
and it just feels better to be happy for them than to let it ache and hurt. And I'm not going to say I'm perfect at it, but like I've been doing this for almost 10 years now, miscarriages. And it seems like there's always like a really close friend that has the same due date, or they got pregnant like right when we first started trying, and then we had to try for a year, like, so it's like there's always that person there. And at the beginning, I was like, they're only pregnant to hurt me. Like, that's all. That, like, this baby is meant to like show me what I don't have, like I went through that and it just doesn't feel good. Um, and so I've worked really hard to change my mindset around that and to be happy and excited for them. Their gain is my gain too, I can go snuggle their sweet little baby, and it doesn't have to hurt me. Um, they didn't have a baby so that I couldn't, it doesn't take away any of that. And I've just learned, I've had my fair share of anger, and I think it's important to let yourself be angry. Um, it like we're created to go through like the 5 stages of grief. All humans go through the stages of grief, and anger is a big one of those. And to try to like not be angry wasn't working for me. Like trying so hard to not be angry was just making me more angry. And so now I allow myself to be angry, but I just don't let myself stay there. And I just really try to be happy and excited for them and work on my mindset that it's their gain is not my loss.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's an important sort of distinction to make. Like, it's not a case of they get a baby but you don't because they've got one. It's
Hmm.
they're having a baby and you still have the same amount of chance as you had before they were pregnant, before they had a baby, to have one.
Yeah. And they didn't steal my baby, like, and I've learned that I've always been jealous of the women that can have babies exactly 2 years apart. They have them every 2 years and they've got 4 or 5. Like our goal, our dream was to like have 5. We wanted a family of 5, and we wanted to have them every 18 months to 2 years apart, so that by the time I turned 30, that we were like off exploring and having so much fun. Like that's what my family looked like in my head. And now I'm 31 and I have 2 living children, and I've lost so many. And um but sometimes I look at the women who have had 5 children 2 years apart, and like that's its own struggle. That's its own exhausting. Um, they have their own mental health struggles with that, and like we all just have our own trials, and mine just happens to be this one. And if I look at others' trials really deeply, I'm like, I would keep mine. Like I don't want to trade you. Um, and so I've just had to embrace my trial and get through my trial the best I can, and just not compare my trials with other people's trials. It's all
Yeah,
hard,
it
you
is.
know.
It is hard, and I know that it can be difficult, like when you're seeing other people, and especially like mothers who have like a lot of kids, and they're sort of sometimes they're struggling, and you're just like, well, at least you have them. Like at least you have all these
Hmm.
kids. And it's funny because we get that. Like people, like when you lose and you have kids, they're like, well, just enjoy the ones you have. Like you're so lucky. Um, and you get so annoyed at that comment. You're just
So
like,
annoyed.
I don't understand. My baby just died. You can love your kids that are here and be
Grieve
devastated.
the ones you lost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then
And
we
if they think
say,
I'm not grateful for the ones I have,
exactly. It's
they're
like, of
so
course.
wrong.
Yeah, of course. But yeah, but then we look at other people and we're just like, no, you should just be so grateful that there's so many amazing kids in your life. But then, life life is a struggle for whoever it's a struggle for at that time in that moment, and they are who they are because they've gone through whatever they've gone through. So we can't actually understand anybody else's journey because we're not in that. But yeah, it's hard to think of it like that when you're in your own journey and headspace. But yeah,
and feeling like you're being picked on, and it's
yeah.
hard. Yeah, I for sure felt my fair share of like, why me? The statistics are like 1 in 4 pregnancies end in miscarriage. I'm like, so cool. Why have I had 6? Have I made it so that 6 other people don't miss their like haven't miscarried? Like, why me? And I'm like, I'm willing to share the love. I'm willing to let somebody else take their turn. But at the same time, like I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, you know? And now I have just found purpose in helping the women who do have to go through it, like finding my army and being their army and helping women through it because it's going to happen to some, it's not going to happen to others. And some may just lose 1, some may lose 6,
Yeah.
You don't know. There's purpose to it, working on finding it.
Yeah, I know you said about faith, about God. I actually came to faith with my last earth child pregnancy. The last 2 pregnancies of loss, I've been in the faith, and I got very angry. I've come to the faith, like I believe, and now I've had this happen.
And now you're going to take my babies from me.
Yeah, yeah, and then yeah, it took some time and just kind of like getting it into my head that, you know, God isn't the author of evil, and he makes things happen that are good come out of bad things. So bad things happen and he allows them to happen, but he doesn't make them happen. They're like a natural thing sometimes that occur. So yeah, so that's been keeping me steady.
It's a
But
lot to think about, and it's a lot to like kind of figure out where your perspective's at with it. But God and faith have completely like I wouldn't be where I'm at if I didn't have a belief in a higher power and a belief that God's not punishing me. I didn't do anything to deserve 6 losses. And he's not punishing me, he's not hurting me. And I found the most peace when I can look at where he's been and where he's been in the details of my losses. I have a story that I shared on my Instagram, but it's one of my favorites. It was with my stillbirth, and I was 17 weeks pregnant, and I lost a baby at 20. But I was 17 weeks pregnant, and I just kind of had like this. I don't really want to announce this pregnancy, and I don't really know why. My pregnancy before that was like fine. I just didn't feel like announcing it. But about 17 weeks, I was like, you know what? We should probably say something on Facebook, you know? And so I wanted to like hire a photographer, and I wanted to have cute pictures of it. And our job was about to change over in like the next couple of months. If we were having a baby, we were getting out of the United States military, and we didn't have a job lined up after. So we knew there was an end to his job, but we didn't have a job after. So we were trying to save all of the money. So spending money on a photo shoot just felt kind of frivolous at the time. So I found this photographer who she said she was starting her portfolio, and usually that means like really cheap or free pictures. So I was really excited. She was really good. She was building her portfolio. And so the night before, I was like, I should ask her how much it's going to cost just to make sure we can still go through with it. So she sends back and she says $95. And I was like, oh. And I was in school at the time to be a photographer myself. So I knew like she wasn't charging nearly enough. And I knew the value in it. And I knew like why she was charging that amount. And I thought she should charge more. But at the same time, like my wallet I didn't have it, my budget. It wasn't in my budget. And I felt so bad that it was like less than 24 hours notice. I was going to need to cancel because we couldn't afford it. And I was just having so much anxiety. And I probably went back and forth, like trying to figure it out for like 3 hours, just so distraught over it. I really wanted these pictures, but I really couldn't pay for them. So finally, I decided to pray, and I just prayed, like, I really want these pictures, and I don't know how I'm going to afford it. And I didn't even get very far into my prayer when I just felt this overwhelming sense of peace. And it was like, get the photo shoots taken, or get the photo shoot, the money will take care of itself. So I went forward with it. We went the next day and we got our pictures taken, and I was like, okay, where's the money? Like, I got to pay this girl. And I get a text message from a lady that I had like babysat before. So I had my little girl, and we like went over and we babysat at this lady's house, her two kids, for a full day. And the last year she had paid me $11 an hour, and she texted me and asked me if I would babysit for 8 hours the next week. So I was like, great. 8 hours times $11, that's $88. That's almost the $95 that this photographer is. I'm like, I can make up to $7, you know? Um, but so I went over and I babysat her kids, and she asked me at the end of the 8 hours, she says, how much did I pay you last summer? And I said, you paid me $11. And so I was expecting $88, you know? So she writes up the check, she folds it in half. I take it, I put it in my wallet, I go home. And it was like a couple hours later, I was like, oh, yeah, she paid me. So I pull out the check and I open it up, and she wrote it for $95, the exact amount that the photographer had charged me, and the exact amount that like Heavenly Father had told me that I was going to be able to have to get those pictures. And I like still was thinking about it this morning, like $88 and $95, that's $7 difference. So it's not like she paid me an extra dollar per hour. It's not like she paid me 50 cents more per hour. If she wanted to cap it at like a normal number, why didn't you cap it at 90? Like round it up to 90. Why 95? You know, like I can't figure out why she did 95. But then when we lost our baby 3 weeks later, that's all I have of him. Are those pictures of him in my belly, and they are my favorite pictures ever. And that's all I have of him. You know, I don't. I mean, he's buried at a little grave by where my parents live, and my last three babies are also there too. We've got four there now, and but those pictures mean everything to me, and he prepared those for me. He made sure that I was able to get those, you know, and those bring me so much peace and so much comfort. And so when I look at that, when I look at the fact that he was preparing comfort for me 3 weeks before my loss, I know he's not punishing me. And I know he is hurting for me, and he wants to give me everything he can. I have to go through this for some reason. I don't know what it is. I don't know that I'll ever know what it is, but I do know that he has a plan for me, and he's going to comfort me along the way, and he's going to walk with me, and he's going to support me, and he's going to be there to lift me up. And he's hurting for me too. But being able to find his hand in things has been game changing for how I process and how I move through the grief, and how I still have hope, and how I get out of bed the next morning, and how I keep moving forward.
That story is so beautiful. Gosh.
Thank you. It's one of my favorite ones. I've got several others, but none that are like cut and dry $95.
It's nice having those pictures, I think, as well. Like, it's strange, like you will take anything you can get, you know, even if it's a blood sack thing on your phone.
Yeah. Yeah. And you
It's,
should be proud of it. Like, you worked hard for that baby, you know, and you would have given anything to be able to keep that baby longer, you know, and I would have too. And the pictures mean so much to me because I'm just like cradling him in there. Like, I loved him. The innocence in those pictures. Like, I wish I could go back and just like hug that girl and let her know what was coming. But at the same time, I love that she was innocent and she had no idea, and she was just in love with this little baby boy that she was, you know.
yeah.
So they're very special to me.
And you get to enjoy those pictures, even though obviously you'd prefer to be enjoying the baby. Enjoy those pictures and just be like, yeah, I loved that baby, no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
I know
And you
that.
have evidence of it. Yeah.
It's in the pictures.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's been there's been a lot. And just like that same loss, We lived in the middle of nowhere in California, and my family was over 12 hours away. And but my family just so happened to be there that weekend. And I had my mom there to keep my little girl. So if my family hadn't been there for vacation that week, where would I have left her? We didn't have friends that I would have trusted to like keep my daughter for 10 hours while I go to the hospital to deliver a baby and figure out funeral arrangements and all that kind of stuff after. I didn't have friends. And I could have lost that baby anytime, so like 2 weeks prior, like he'd been gone a week or two. I could have lost him then. But Heavenly Father made sure that my family was there to support me. And my mom had my little girl while I could, like, my little girl doesn't trust anybody more than, like, well, it's like me, my husband, and then it's my mom. So she was with who she trusted and who she loved, and she was comfortable and happy. And I was able to go to the hospital and do what I needed to do. So that's another one that I'm like, his hand was in that. I delivered my baby while my family was there, and it's a huge blessing. Stinks that it like ruined our vacation. We had been at Disneyland, and now going to Disneyland is hard for me. Like I've got triggers and memories there, but he prepared them. That was how he was going to get my family there, and that was the best time. If I had to go through this loss, that was the best time for it, and I know he prepared that. And I don't know, finding those blessings and finding those moments has been the most eye-opening for me to let me know that I'm not alone in this and I'm not being punished.
Yeah. I have another speaker who she lost her baby around like a holiday. I think it was Thanksgiving or something. And
Mm-hmm.
all the family were coming over, and she didn't have any children yet. She's actually pregnant right now, and she's really far through, so we're praying for her. Yeah, so she lost hers around the sort of celebratory time, and
It's
yeah,
hard.
everyone was there, and yeah, they all just cried together, and yeah, but she didn't obviously she didn't know that would be
Yeah.
happening, and that you're right is a blessing, and she did feel very blessed that they were there because it was a hard time for her to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, it seems that it's around like Thanksgiving, like you're going to
yeah,
like always associate that with it. But it's just such a blessing to have family around and loved ones and then not go through it by yourself. You're not alone. You're not going through it by yourself. There are people that love you and that will be there for you. And it's not something to hide and go through by yourself. It's not something you can do
yeah,
by yourself. You need the love and the support of those around you. And it's important to make sure that you let people know what's happening so that they can love and support and be there for you.
is there anything that you found has been really different between each loss? Like, is there anything that, I don't know, changed your perspective or anything? I mean, I know every loss you change. You change as a person,
Yeah.
you change as a mother. So how has that process been for you? How are you coping with the changes? Because most people find it obviously really difficult to deal with not being the same person.
Yeah. So every pregnancy and every loss has been different. Like I said, after the first one, I was so angry. Like I had worked so hard to get this baby, and God took that baby. And was angry. I was bitter. I was not a fun person to be around. Like, just was not happy. And so with my loss after that, it was my blighted ovum. And like I said, I don't remember very much about it. I don't know if I've blocked it out. I don't know why I don't remember. I wish I journaled so I could go back through and read. I just don't. But with my loss with my baby Jet, my 20-week loss, I was determined not to be angry. Like, I did not like how that felt. I did not like the person it had turned me into. Like, I just didn't. I wasn't going to be angry. And so that was the one when I was looking for God's hand in things. And I found God's hand in so many things. And so that one, I wasn't angry. It was kind of like this, okay, this is something that I have to go through, and he's right there with me. There's going to be purpose in this pain, and I'll figure it out. And then I had my little boy, and then my little girl Lily, she was the loss in April of 2021. My 16 week, one of my 16 weeks. After we lost her, I turned into a crazy person. I was determined to figure out what was wrong. I researched all hours of the night trying to figure out what was wrong. I was comparing pathology reports from placentas. I was Googling every single word in the pathology to make sure there wasn't something I was missing. I had tests that I wanted to run myself. I would go to a doctor, he'd tell me no, I'd figure out how to pay for it myself. I spent so much money on tests running it myself because the doctor refused to run it because I hadn't had 3 losses in a row yet. I turned into a crazy person. But that was the one where I was like, I know this isn't a fluke. There's no way I lost 2 babies in the last trimester for some fun reason. Like it's not a fluke, you know? So I turned into a legitimate crazy person. I was not a fun one to be around. I was crazy. Um, but I think that's how I coped with that one, was just trying to figure out what was going on. That was the only way I could move forward. And then the loss in March of 2021, I've lost it. Like this sounds so bad, but I've lost so many. Some of the times they like run together. Uh, why am I can't remember much about where I was with that one. To be honest, that one I numbed a lot of that one out. From the day I found out I had miscarried to the day of my D&E was 10 days, and being pregnant with a deceased baby for 10 days, excuse my language, but it's a special form of hell. It was not good. I was in the lowest place of my entire life. I don't think I was angry. I think I was sad and I was numb. I kind of numbed out, and that's a scary place to be. It's a very scary place to be. And I didn't stay there very long. I was able to climb out of it with God's help and praying and trying to shift my perspective. And then this last pregnancy was actually not super planned. I had biopsies scheduled, a uterine biopsy scheduled. I had a colon biopsy scheduled to figure out if I had celiac disease. I had an MRI scheduled to kind of get my body back in alignment. I was having back pain. I was going to get that all figured out. So I had all these big tests that you can't be pregnant for scheduled. And I took letrozole just to kind of see what it would do, if it was still working for my body or not. But like my husband and I's timing, he was like out of town, and there's like a week from the last time I saw him to this is TMI. The last time I saw him to like the day of ovulation was like a week. So I was like, there's no way I'm pregnant. So like I just knew like this is a off month. We'll try again a different month. So I got all those things scheduled, and then I found out I was pregnant, that baby stuck around, and I had to cancel all of my biopsies and stuff. And I was kind of upset. Like I was ready to get my body back into alignment, and I was ready to get all the things, like I was ready to get healthy before I tried to have another baby, and then found out I was pregnant again. And so that baby just felt like this baby's meant to be here. Like this baby has fought against all odds. This baby's gonna stay. I did all of the shots and stuff, and I'm like, this baby's gonna stay. And then when they found out that this baby also didn't have a heartbeat, I got angry, and I felt guilty about like my anger. And that's when I learned that anger is part of the grieving process. It's one of the 5 stages of grief, and it's an important one to feel, because if you I've been learning the last year how much our emotions impact our body, and how our body, like your liver and stuff and your heart and just different parts of your body, don't function well when you are suppressing emotions. And so suppressing all that anger just wasn't good. So this time I let myself feel it. It is a scary place to be back to, allowing myself to be angry. But man, I was angry. I was just so mad that it happened again and that there was still no answers. And yeah, so I've learned a lot. I'm a completely different person than I was before. And like I said, I would love to go back and hug the girl and let her know what's coming for her. But at the same time, like, because I didn't know what was coming for me, it's been extremely transformative. I used to miss the girl that I was before, the innocent girl, the girl who had no idea. But I've worked really hard to shift my perspective and to love this new me because it is a new me. I will never be her again. I will never be the girl who has not experienced loss again. And I've started to love the new me, love this me who has empathy, love this me who knows that life can switch on a dime. We're not guaranteed any time. I'm not guaranteed time with my living children. You know, like life can switch so fast. And I'm so grateful to know that. I just feel like I appreciate my children and love on my children differently now. And it doesn't even have to be baby loss anymore. Any hard thing that anybody goes through, I want to be the first one to be there with dinner, with a snack basket, with a necklace that helps you remember your baby or whatever's going through, you know. I love I love this new me. I hate what she had to go through to be who she is, but I love this me now. I love who she is. I love how she feels. I love the in tuneness she has with God. I love the deep connection she's been able to make because she's vulnerable now and she is willing to share her heart and hear other people's hearts and connect on such a like a much deeper level. Like I have deeper friendships now than I ever have had before. And I don't know that I will ever say, I'm so grateful I lost my babies. I will never say that, probably ever. But I'm grateful for the person who's come out of them. And I love her so much. And I don't think I'd trade her. I don't think I'd trade her for the girl who had no idea.
Yeah. Gosh. That's really beautiful to hear.
Sorry.
No, it's good. It's really beautiful to hear.
It's a hard place to get to, but when you do, it feels like healing.
And like just accepting who you are. It's really can be really difficult. That acceptance of the new you, the worried you, the fearful you sometimes, you
The
know.
crazy you. I'm crazy.
Yeah. Like
I'm the doctor's least favorite patient. I come in, I'm like, I want this test, I want this test, I want this test. I know better than you. Like they hate me, but I love me, so it's fine.
yeah, the advocate,
I am my best advocate, and I used to just like go along with whatever they said, but now I'm like, you know what? Nobody has given me the time of day to help figure this out. I am the only person that is putting any time researching into this. Please listen to me. If you listen to me, I will help you take so many giant steps towards helping me if you just listen to me. But a lot of times they just shut me down. Like, I'm the doctor. I went to medical school. I don't listen to you. So it's hard. It's a hard time.
yeah, I've heard this a very similar story from a lot of the women in this space because doctors have a degree and they know best, but they don't know our body best because we're all individuals.
Right.
You couldn't study long
Well,
enough.
I've just learned. Yeah. Well, and I've just learned that there's just not a lot of study done on recurrent pregnancy loss. It happens a lot now, and I think it's kind of new. Like not new, but like it's happening more often now. And I just don't think it happened enough in the past to have done much study on it. And it's hard to do studies on pregnant women because you don't want to put them at risk, you know? So there's just not very many studies done on recurrent pregnancy loss, and doctors don't ever get to the point of testing it because I've learned that doctors don't want to say, I don't know. But honestly, most doctors don't know because if they did know, we wouldn't be having it happen, you know? So I've just found a lot of doctors that aren't willing to help me because they don't feel confident that they'll ever come to a conclusion.
Yeah, I can see that would be a bit of a block for some doctors because they want to help their patient.
Yeah.
If they know
And then
they
get
can
them to
help
an
their
end
patient.
goal.
Yeah, if they know they can help.
But they're like, I can't help you. I had a doctor a couple weeks ago. I went in and I asked for a certain test, and he's like, that's not a standard test for recurrent pregnancy loss. And I was like, I've done all the standard tests for recurrent pregnancy loss. We're past that point. Like, I need to be doing different tests. Like, we need to be doing different research and go, like, I'm not your standard. So we need to be thinking outside the box a little bit. So that's kind of where I'm at right now, is just finding a person who is as invested in figuring me out. as
Yeah.
I am, it's hard to find. I'm like, I am the perfect specimen. Put me in your tests, put me in your clinical trials. Like, I want to figure out what's going on. I just need to find a doctor who also wants to figure out.
Maybe finding someone who actually has gone through it, if there is one.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's gonna be me. I'm gonna go to medical school. I'm gonna do it. I'm kidding. I'm really not. I'm not a
that's what you're
doctor.
supposed to do. Medical school.
This is
Gosh,
the purpose in my pain.
that
Yeah.
would be so
No, I can't
long.
handle throw up or blood or bodily fluids. I can't be
No,
it.
me neither.
can't do it.
I am so bad. When my kids ever get like seriously like hurt, like the blood like
It's
on
the
their
worst.
face or something, I'm just like, oh,
It's freeze. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'm just trying not to pass out.
yeah. And then I'm like, Daddy, like all the dad, and he's just like, what? And I'm like, that really hurt. Can you sort it out?
Fix them.
I can't do it. Like,
I love that.
I mean, it makes me feel like a really shoddy mum because I can see other, like my mum, she's just like, yeah, like fixes everything and cleans it all
It has
up.
nothing to do with what kind of mom you are. I can tell you it would be just a great mom. It has nothing to do with that if you can handle blood or guts or any of that. I
No,
can't
I'm
handle
like,
it
no, I can't. I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm just like, please
Yeah,
don't
and
injure
like throw
yourself.
up, I'll throw up too. So like my husband just does it
Yeah.
so that there's not two things of throw up to clean up, just the one that already happened.
Actually, I've managed to kind of keep that down. So like when the kids throw up, I just kind of like try and hold my nose or something and just
Look at you. I still can't.
and I do something really disgusting. Most people think it's horrible. I just put the sheets straight into the washer. I don't even rinse them or
Oh,
anything.
don't rinse them off. No, there's no time for that.
I
Just
just
put them straight
straight
in.
in the washer. I just can't smell it and like see it.
Yeah.
I bundle it up and then I'm
Even
like,
if you have to wash them twice to get through it, like I like your style. I gotta do
yeah,
that.
and literally like bundle it and like it's really far away from me. I look like a crazy person carrying it through the house. But yeah. And I mean, we can find joy in those moments even more so through having gone through losses because we're just grateful that we get to do that, which is
Yeah,
really
I've
gross.
learned it's still really gross, but yes. I've just learned what miracles my little babies are. Like all of us, all babies, we're miracles. Like the things that have to go right and stay right for a baby to make it is I've learned isn't like
Yeah.
it's incredible that babies make it at all. Um, and my sweet little people, I have no idea what I did or what happened or what went right, but I'm just grateful something did. And I find myself pretty frequently going in and like snuggling my kids after they've fallen asleep. And I'll just lay my head on their chest and I'm just so grateful for their sweet little heartbeats. I'm just so grateful that they're still beating. And I just think some people take for granted that their little people are here and I never will. And that's another part of me that I love. Like I'll never take my sweet little kids for granted. Like I love them. They're miracles and I'm just so grateful to have them.
It's sad, but I think a lot of the time it takes going through loss to have that much gratitude because I didn't really have it. I didn't really have enough of that. And I like there's a lot of regret in terms of that. Like I wish I'd, loved it more and been more grateful. But then
So you can start now.
yeah, I had that those
Or when you had your losses. Yeah,
yeah,
you can
no,
start now. It's not too late.
yeah. Yeah. I mean I fell into a pit first, but then
Yeah.
but we actually sleep in the same room as the kids because I've just always had this thing of checking that they're breathing and stuff. And that was before I'd even lost any kids.
And then it just turned you into more of a crazy person having lost it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I have a 7-year-old and I still check his breathing. Like last night.
I check mine too.
I was like, seriously? He's 7. I shouldn't check his breathing. Like
You just know how precious life is and how quickly it can change.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And no amount of belief in God or faith can protect you from going through things if that's what you have to go through.
Yeah, but he will be there to support you and love you through it.
Yeah.
But I've learned that he doesn't halt all bad things just because you're living the way that you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
Like I can
That's
check off
something
all the
I've
boxes. I did this, 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 and this, and bad things still happen.
yeah,
And
that's something I've been kind
that's
of
not the purpose of life.
accepting that
Yeah,
it's hard.
it's hard. Yeah, you think you do X, Y, and Z, and you deserve this perfect, easy life because you're obeying God and you're doing everything He's asked. And then He goes and takes something from you, and you're like, hold up, like I did all the things right. And I don't think that's what it is. I think we do all the things so that we can have Him close and we can have a good relationship and a connection with Him, so that when bad things do happen, because they will, it's life.
Yeah.
When they do happen, you have His support and you have Him near you to support you and love you through it and pick you back up, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So true. Thank you so much for sharing all of that.
Thank you.
And
thank you for having me on and giving me the opportunity to.
Yeah.
It's therapeutic to share.
It is. This whole event has been really therapeutic for me.
I bet. I'm so excited to see it all come together.
Yeah, there's some amazing stories, stories of faith, stories of pain, stories of miracles. It's been an emotional roller coaster in itself.
I'm sure you're feeling a lot of it.
Well, at the beginning I didn't really cry much, and now I'm just like crying every interview. It's like seriously.
We're wearing you down, Ella. We're gonna make
What a mess.
We're gonna make you cry.
Yeah. But, yeah, thank you so much for speaking with me and joining me. And
Thank you.
you know, as you were talking, I just thought you seem so lovely and like calm and
Thank you.
peaceful. And a lot of ladies kind of like that, like after a loss, you just kind of you can get really lost in it. And I think it's really lovely that you have that sense of calm and peace. And
thank you. It's something I've had to work
really
hard to get back to.
I think that is a really powerful thing that will really help a lot of women to see that you can feel some kind of peace and contentment and be okay with who you are. So
yeah, that's been a big part of my the Instagram account that I started. I follow a lot of baby loss accounts, and I just felt like they were just kind of stuck in this, like, this is hard, this is horrible, this is awful. And yes, there is a time and a place for that, but I just wanted to be a voice of, it doesn't have to stay that way. It doesn't have to. You can find hope and you can find the light again. And it's crucial that you do. It's crucial that you find the light and the hope and the joy again. Because life isn't meant to be depressing and sad and spend time in your bed. You know, like there is beauty in turning your pain into purpose and finding the hope and the light again.
yeah, life is not meant to be lived in the dark.
No, it's not. There's so much light. You just got to fight really hard to find it sometimes.
Yeah. Well, thank you. You're beautiful and amazing.
Thank you. Thank you, Ella.
I hope you can join us on the lives, and I'm sure we'll get some questions through. Hopefully I won't be a blubbery mess.
It's been great. Thank you so much for reaching out and for giving me this opportunity. I really, really enjoyed chatting with you, Ella.
Thank you. And keep in touch and let me know, like, if you find answers, if anything happens, like, you know, or if you want to talk to a stranger. Sure. I'm a stranger. I'm
Same here. We all are.
We can pretend we're normal, but it's not really. Thank you so much. And
you're welcome.
See ya.
Okay, we'll chat soon. Bye.
Bye.
Please note that all speakers, including experts and professionals, express information, views, and opinions that should not be used to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any medical conditions. If you have a medical issue, please consult a qualified professional. Speakers voice their own views, opinions, and conclusions, and they may not reflect the views, opinions, and conclusions of other speakers. Ella Rose, The Joy of Sunflowers, and its sponsors may not endorse all or any of the views, opinions, or conclusions expressed.